The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Curiosity fosters connection.
Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside while still alive. Never surrender.
Who said that?
Back at the bakery.
Hey.
What we at? Episode 6?
I think maybe, if not.
Official?
Actually, no, I think it's 7. It might be. Because 4 was the blue, 5 was the threat. We dropped 6, and now we're at 7.
We just dropped resiliency and redemption.
Mm-hmm.
That was 6. So this is 7.
Yeah.
Awesome. And the quote that we have today is, "We live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, it's not my child, not my community, not my world, not my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those people my heroes." Ooh, who said that? We'll tell you later.
Well, I'm Priscilla Z, everybody. Thanks for coming again. We appreciate your time and energy, offering your currency as always. And this is
B Willis, your boy, and we're both NAMA certified anger management specialists. Awesome.
Yeah.
Super new come up in our lives.
I've been working on my prereqs for my peer counseling certification as well, and that's really exciting. Although B's already got that and a bunch of other certs under his belt.
Yeah, I got a few.
I love it. Well, today we bring you to Pi, Pursuing Internal Evolution. As always, I invite you to do it intentionally because it will happen with or without your consent. We are always evolving and growing as a community and internally as well throughout our experiences. On last episode, we talked even about how failures can be accomplishments and aiding your internal evolution. So it happens no matter what.
With or without your permission or engagement, intentionally pursuing internal evolution is just part of living life. Every day we grow. Every day we change. We sometimes will change our ideas about things that we believed yesterday we no longer believe today.
Yeah.
Or we're presented with some new contradictory information and we are forced to change our previously disposed opinions about things when we hear new facts. So yeah, do it on purpose.
Absolutely. I was like in this concept of always doing our best, which is one of the 4 agreements. You know, change is something that is going to happen all the time, and you are always doing your best all the time as you progress through that. It's just going to look different, and being nice to yourself about that stuff, I think, is the most important part.
Being nice to yourself.
Please. I think it's a good idea. There's somebody I know who's also super interested in this concept. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get right into Keep Effing Going.
Yeah.
Make sure you get your copy.
We would like to thank Joshua Smith
and Jordan Davis.
Absolutely.
Our authors. This is a non-profit journey that they have started with this. So do get your books. It goes right to supporting the evolution of our youth.
Yeah, I'm like the last time we hit day 5, so we're on day 6. It says, quiet your mind, visualize positive change, and speak this affirmation with conviction. I am worthy of love and kindness, and I choose to treat myself with compassion and understanding.
My turn. I am worthy of love and kindness, and I choose to treat myself with compassion and understanding.
We can all say that over and over today, and I think maybe after a while to create a new track we all deserve. This affirmation acknowledges your inherent worthiness as a human being and encourages you to approach yourself with kindness and gentleness. By repeating this affirmation to yourself regularly, you can cultivate a more positive and self-affirming mindset that can help you to heal and grow. Remember to say it with intentions and believe it wholeheartedly. You deserve to feel good about yourself and your journey. I love it.
Facts.
This is where I'm at. Like affirmations, it's so funny. Words and spelling. You know, when we're spelling words out, we're creating a spell. We're making magic happen. And there's dark magic and there's light magic. And it's all about where you want to put your energy. And so with affirmations, you get to kind of decide what kind of magic you wish to create for yourself. And it's a really easy way to switch your mindset and then to also really see the benefit very quickly. You'd be surprised.
Very true. Very true. All right. So I'm going to mix this up.
Okay.
Just a little bit. We're going to get into our daily challenges, kind of what we always do. I'm going to mix these cards up. I'm not going to look. I'm looking at y'all.
Maybe I'll join you.
I'm looking at y'all. All right. Top card or middle card? Let's go with the middle.
Nice.
All right. Better than yesterday. This one says, shop local. Buy something in person from a small business in your city. Support a local business in the same way you'd want someone to support you.
I love this. And I actually recently got a new perspective on this because I thought in my head, shopping local and small businesses, it only meant like mom and pop businesses or really kitschy businesses, right? So I thought I would go downtown Olympia and I would spend my money like in the downtown area. You know, there's great stores, Captain Little's, like I said in the last episode, the Apothecary that's down there is wonderful, Radiance, and there's so many different places locally in those tiny shops that we can support. But here's an idea, okay? So at good old
Sounds like pie's coming.
Yeah, it is. At our good old stores that are kind of bigger, okay, which I know I'm going to say the bad words, Target, Walmart, okay. Now, those places are in competition with the internet right now. They're actually in competition with things like Amazon, okay. And it is very easy to get on Amazon and give our friend Jeff Bezos more of our money, which we know we all have done. And that's okay to do. But if you didn't notice before, something to take into perspective now is those stores, Ross, that's another one. You know, good old Ross, love that place. But like, there's real people behind the register. There's real people working there, and there are people I know, and
you get to try your clothes on before you buy them.
Absolutely. And it's the fact that like I know people that need jobs in our community. And if we're taking our money and we're putting it right on the internet as fast as we can, so we get that product as fast as we can, sometimes we might be eliminating jobs for people who are even at the bigger stores. So like we've seen, you know, Mervyn's, man, Mervyn's went down. And I think part of that happened. Sears. Oh, Sears. You know, these sorts of Kmart. These places went down because there wasn't enough happening within our cities to keep them afloat. So reframing your brain, not just on small businesses, although I think we should keep our focus there. It's also a great idea to just keep your money local. Keep it invested in your local economy because we all need each other right now, especially in these times where things are looking a little different.
Well, in the line of Pi, pursuing internal evolution, think about the experience and the world experience, the more human connection that you get when you just go into a store, when you get to walk around and then use our philosophy of curiosity, fostering connection, striking conversations in the big stores when you're in the Walmarts or the Targets.
Absolutely.
And I think we're getting a new Ross soon. My wife brought it up and she would know.
Of course. I actually heard her get excited about it. She's the one that told me.
Yeah, which means she'll be going there, which is cool because, you know, Shein now, you know, the Amazon and all these places are absorbing a lot of our attention and our income. And half of the time my wife gets something from Shein, it doesn't fit, or she isn't
Right.
happy with it because she didn't get the experience to try it on and go back and grab another one from an aisle. So yeah, just keep your money local. That's a good card.
The other thing
I
that
rock with it.
I love it. The other thing that I do, and you can call me like a luddite or a stinker to technology, but like self checkout stuff, like even though self checkout seems like this great advancement, it really is taking away the checkers job. And like I like meeting the checkers. I like saying hi to them and maybe seeing how their day is going. And some of them are like older people who have really great stories or jokes to share. And that's something when I was growing up, I lived in Lacey my whole life. And like the people that worked at Safeway, they knew me since I was a little kid on up, and we have a little bit here down locally at the Bayview Thriftway and the local Thriftway here up in the upper side of the town, which are locally ran businesses. And staying with that connection with those checkers is kind of a neat way of creating a feeling of community. And so anyways, trying to stay off all of those electronic easy ways could maybe benefit you in more ways than one.
I like what yours says on top.
I love mine too. All right, everybody. And I believe I am this.
Me too.
And I know you too. And that's the kind of coolest part about it. Main character energy. So Better Than Yesterday 91. Ooh, this is kind of a cool challenge. Write down 10 things you like about yourself or that make you unique in some way. Hyping yourself up reminds you why you should continue to respect the standards and boundaries you live by. Ooh, I'm like, it's so funny because we could think of maybe 3 things or 5 things, but to have to sit and come up with 10 things is kind of cool.
10 things you like about you.
Yeah, and I also like that it says about yourself or that make you unique in some way. What makes you guys unique? If you want to come up with some of the things that you're really proud of and share with us, make sure to do so. I'd love to see some comments on the episode about, things that you find really special about who you are.
Yeah. Facebook, Pietalk podcast on Facebook, or right here on the YouTube in the comments. Or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, there's a place for comments there too. So please engage. Let us know 10 dope things about yourself.
I'm not going to make them do 10, but I want to know 1. What's one really unique or cool thing that you love about yourself?
All right. So all y'all social media goers that follow us on the different platforms, drop 1 jewel about yourself.
I want one from you. Right now. Let's go. Let's
go. 1 jewel.
1 jewel. Give me your jewel.
1 jewel about me is my artwork on my body. Makes me unique.
That's super cool.
Almost all of my tattoos are designs of my own making.
I love it.
With that and the collaboration with the artists doing this thing, I have a bunch of cool artwork that has meaning. All of my tattoos have some really deep meaning or story behind them, so they're not just like, I want this cool thing that looks cool. I tried to be purposeful and meaningful with the ink that I put on my body, and yeah, it makes me unique. I know a lot of people are tattooies that have ink all over them, and that's one thing that you can do when connecting with somebody that has ink. Ask them about their ink.
Yeah, I actually, fun fact, but I have no tattoos at all. And my dad growing up, he used to tell me, he'd say, Priscilla, come here, I got a little secret for you. You want to know the coolest tattoo ever? Because he had tattoos all over his body. And I said, what's that, Dad? Because I wanted a tattoo really bad. And he said, don't get one. Because eventually when you're older, you'll possibly be one of the only people without any. And so what I do, which is kind of funny, fostering connection, is I actually admire people with them. And I always want to know why they have them or the story behind them. And it's kind of interesting because even though it isn't something I have on my own body, I really dig it. I think it's a cool way of everybody expressing themselves in an individual manner. And it's cool to find out the stories people have backing up their tats.
All right, pick one.
Okay. I know I actually just saw this and I'm like, why that? All the way. Yeah.
So what she pointed was my forearm tattoo. Maybe I'll take a picture and put it in the edit so you guys can see. So this is, it's a ram because I'm in Aries.
Okay.
And so I do honor that a couple different times on my body. But this here is the actual, it's the outline of a real $100 bill. And these are my birth dates. And also, it says residual income. And the reason why is because I was raised by entrepreneurs. I've said in a different episode, my mom and my aunties, they were all about, these are really empowered indigenous and black women. Another shout out, we are still in Black History Month. So shout out to my mom and to my Aunt Jackie and my Uncle Abe for being steadfast entrepreneurs and role models, even when I was young and able to show that. And so residual income came up a lot. And what does residual income mean? It means money that makes money. So when you're investing in things, and it also ties right into the currency we talk about at Pietalk. When you're investing in things that have the potential to generate more funds, that's residuals. When people are getting royalties, that's residual income, stuff like that. So that's where that tattoo comes. It has multiple components. It was also a cover-up because during my bid, when I was 17, I did a long stretch. And so I wasn't in contact with very many people at all. So I had put a gravestone on my forearm of my name. Wow. And inside the gravestone, it was going to say dead to the world. But the guy had got in trouble that was doing the tat. So the inside never got filled. So it was just like the outline of the gravestone with my name on it and the date of my arrest at that time. And so I covered it with this, which was done at Bulldog. My guy, Raleigh, shout out.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like the story behind the story, because of the why, because of the things. And it's funny too, because my dad, he went through a little bit of pain in his life, and so he had a tattoo right here of a dagger that was going through his skin. It had blood dripping from it, and then later on he covered it up with the Army crest for the U.S. military, because that was something that he was proud of perpetuating, that covered up his original pain story. So it's kind of cool how that works, They always say you wear your heart on your sleeve, and maybe it's in some of your tattoos,
Maybe it is on my skin.
Yeah. I just love that. I'm like, do we have any shout outs today that we wanted to perpetuate before
I head? Of course, we always want to give big shout outs to Joshua Smith and Jordan Davis for their continued philanthropy work in the community, not only for this book, but Josh has his hands in a lot of big community projects, and big shout out to him. He's my mentor. Shout out to Thread Brown. You seen the co-owner of kind of the business behind the podcast. That's one of our members. Shout out to MJ. Shout out to Brian. The ones you don't see still deserve credit for perpetuating this energy and this motion. Shout out to our original PB&J.
Yeah.
New You Cooking and Consulting. No Chill Jill.
No Chill Jill.
She should be coming on the episode fairly soon. I think we had some dates. I got to check on those.
Perfect.
But we'll be having our first official season PB&J episode when Jill comes back to talk about that literal pie and that goodness that she brings.
Do you know what I love about Jill the most is, if you get to see her in person, you might be able to see it on the podcast, but her eyes look like the entire universe is encapsulated in her eyes. And so whenever I think of No Chill Jill, I can literally shut my eyes, or in my vision, I always see her beaming, beautiful eyes. She just has a presence. She is soul-tastic, soul-rich. And anyways, it's going to be an honor to have her back on the show. I'm excited.
Okay.
I'm I got another shout out, of course, which leads into our topic of the show. So huge shout out to my sister, Betty, who is a literal representation of pi. She is always pursuing internal evolution. That girl learns everything.
External renovation. She's always building.
Yes, which is also a part of her internal renovations, because when she's externally building something, she actually says she gets into a meditative state. So when she's renovating and creating projects, she uses that as meditation. Often she says a lot of us have too many problems because we're not gardening enough. She's like, if you have a problem, you can go and pick some weeds for a minute or two with me, and then you might not have so many dumb problems because you'll sit out there working them out,
Garden, literally, and Figuratively, like our tree, water
Yeah.
yourself, grow those leaves of wisdom, of nurturing, of togetherness.
Yeah, so our topic today is opinions versus perspective. Okay. And Betty and B and I were all having a chat about this before we did the podcast. And so we decided to kind of run with it. And so I'm going to read to you the two definitions, and then I'm going to read kind of a collaborative thought, and then we'll open up after that. So an opinion is a view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge, okay? Now, a perspective, it states, is the art of drawing something solid objects on a two-dimensional surface so as to give the right impression of their height. But another thing that it could be similar to a perspective is a particular attitude towards or a way of regarding something, like a viewpoint. Now, the concept that we bring in between this opinion versus perspective to ponder on is, let us all try to agree that the difference between your opinion and your perspective is that your opinion doesn't require you to have experience in the subject matter you are weighing in on, while your perspective is the result of your experience, making it something more valuable than your opinion. What'd you think?
Wow. No, but seriously, I think it is something to really consider when we are trying to convince people of what we're saying.
Right.
You know, and I really like the differentiation that they use in this because it's true. We often just say things that may be based on our perspective, but at the same time doesn't necessarily have to be rooted in knowledge or expert matter in the situation. So a lot of times, if we just take a moment and get curious with ourselves when we're really like heading towards the energy of an argument, for example, and you start thinking, I want to make this person understand or be convinced of what I'm saying to be right and to be true. But it could be true for you.
Right.
And not true for that person. And collectively, you're both still living in your truths because we could both be in the same room, witness the same event, whether it be traumatic or mundane, right? And we could go off and do taped recorded statements, and those statements will have completely different pieces of information that are both in and of themselves true, but you might need both of those taped statements to create the picture of what happened in a situation, because where I might be color focused, right? I might speak mainly on the things that I seen that attracted my eye, that were bright, that were colorful. And so what if someone else is more sound focused? And in their statement, they're talking about the things that they heard and that the conversation they heard verbatim. You hear people say that, no, they said this verbatim, right? And that's their perspective. So your perspective will always be true to you. Your experience will always be true to you. And when you speak from that place, you're going to have more weight than just an opinion on something you didn't perceive. But as a whole, we are just regurgitating things that we believe through the eyes of our own perspectives.
Yeah, there's this thought that says the eyes are blind if the mind can't see. And so one of these stories that I always go back to when I'm trying to like really make this point to people is, and it's been told a bunch of different times throughout history in a bunch of different ways. So I'm just going to do like a topical version, a visual version, but it's about the ships coming. So the ships were supposedly coming to the land, okay? And there was like a tribe of people that was indigenous to the land. And the wise ones, or the people who had really worked on maybe their pie quite a bit, the pursuing internal evolution folks, okay? They were sitting there and they saw the ships coming, mostly because they were allowing their eyes to see what was ahead of them, which were these ships. Okay. Now, there were other people that were all around in the tribe, and they said, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like, they actually physically did not see anything because, number one, they didn't know what a ship was. Number two, they didn't want to see a ship because that would be scary. What is on the ship? They don't know what that is. And now, because they're fear-based and driven, they're definitely not looking. And even if something was coming their way, they're going to be blind to it because their mind wasn't allowing them to see. Well, then the ships start to come closer and closer, and more of the tribal members start talking, and they start kind of getting over the concept of not wanting to see. And then a couple more people are like, because they had some pie talk with the elders, right? They're like, "Oh crap, like I see the boats too. Like I do see them coming." And so now the people who all see the boats coming, they get together and they're like, "Okay, let's make a plan. Like we've got to start getting ready because we don't know what's about to come. Maybe we'll retreat. Maybe we'll hide the children and the women. Maybe we'll do things to prepare." And then the story by the end of it is that essentially the lesson is, if you're not willing to allow your eyes to see, if you don't have an open mind to see things that might even be out of your realm of understanding, by the time the ship gets to the land, you might be in a lot of hurt and havoc. Well, those that saw it and began to prepare migrated away from what was to come. So also the concept of accepting positive pie when it's offered to you and indulging in that could be really cool. Now, this perspective versus opinion thing, it also leads into this concept of like being right. Now, was anybody right or wrong in that story? No. They all were living a human experience. And even the people that were at the shoreline that had to meet the ships, what if the people that came had treats? What if they had fruit, right? What if it wasn't a bad thing? Like, what if it was a positive thing? We don't know. And maybe the people that ran to prepare missed out. We don't know which perspective of the experience was the correct one or the right one, but each of them was doing what they were supposed to do or how they were supposed to navigate their life experience. And when you accept that, it becomes a lot easier to live on earth without judgment of others and without demanding other people to see things that they can't see. So in my personal experience, I witnessed my mom passing this last June. And when this happened, I have a very different mindset of how I already worked with my mother. I already worked with my brain about passing and the experience of a soul moving on. There were different things that my perspective knew that it wanted to see in that experience. Now, in that same exact time, I have 3 other siblings. And each of them had their perspective of my mother, their experience of death, their expectations of what they wish to perceive. And when we all walked away from, like, we'll just say that day of her passing, everybody had a completely different narrative, 100%. Now, was anybody wrong? No. Everybody was absolutely correct in their own perspective. And then the opinions that they offered were absolutely their opinions about things that they have an idea about, but it doesn't necessarily mean that their perspective or their opinion is mine, nor is my perspective or opinion theirs.
Yeah.
It was a tough one to handle, but at the same time, it was really cool because it was almost like watching people watch 4 different movies all at the same time and then come back to chat and debrief about the movie. And no matter what, I can't convince any of those people that my movie was their movie. Their movie was theirs.
So look at it like this, and I just kind of thought about this. An opinion, I would say, is the attempt to convince somebody of a perspective that isn't their own.
Mm-hmm.
While sharing your perspective is taking ownership
Love it.
of your experience, right? Because, and it happens in my work environment, right? Where we open groups. One of our group agreements in most cases is to come from a place of I statements, where you take ownership of the story you're going to tell, of the perspective that you're going to share, so that you're not coming from a place of trying to convince someone of your truth, or trying to change somebody's mind, or trying to be right. You're just taking ownership. Man, when I was in that room, this is what I saw, and I believe, in my opinion, my ownership of my perspective is different. When people are opinionated, that comes with a negative undertone. It comes with a little bit of negativity, right? Because when you hear someone say, "Oh, that person's really opinionated," you don't often get good feelings that come with someone saying that about another person. They're actually giving you some tea, because opinionated usually comes with when you're thinking about somebody who's judgy or judgmental, and they're taking and they're breaking things apart in a negative way, like that person shouldn't be, or that person should be. Now that's when opinions become harmful, where opinions are just our thoughts about a thing, right?
That's it.
So we have this episode, opinions versus perspective, when in actuality they should be cohesive, because our opinions are derived from our perspectives.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about something that we didn't perceive, for example, if I'm speaking about something that Priscilla experienced and I wasn't there, now that's different than my perspective, because now that's purely an opinion, not based on knowledge, factual grounding, or expertise in the matter. Priscilla is an expert on her own experience. Priscilla is an expert on her own perspective and her ability to express what she went through in a thing, or saw, or felt. And she'll always be right, because her feelings are her own and they're not somebody else's. And even that's my opinion.
I love it. It's a pretty good opinion in my perspective. I enjoyed this topic a lot, because I am a passionate person. So I'm very passionate about my perspective. And when I'm passionate about my perspective, it does sound like I'm pushy with my opinions, but that also is about who is receiving them. So something that I've often found is people who are not grounded in their own perspective or their own opinions, they often feel like you're trying to convince them of something. But really, it might be because they haven't convinced themselves of anything. So they're feeling from their perspective like you're trying to force them into an opinion. And it mostly is because they haven't grounded themselves in their own opinions. Or their perspective. And I know it's starting to get a little wordy, a little messy there, but
that's the point, right?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a really interesting topic. So what I have actually learned is, who am I trying to convince of my perspective? Because if my perspective is only mine, right, and it's only for me, then I'm not going to throw that around everywhere. I'm not going to give that to people who aren't willing to be open to hearing that other perspective or that other concept. Now, there are people out there that are searching for perspective. They're searching for opinions that are outside of their realm and their judgment. And when someone opens that door, then I will walk through it. And I have a lot less conflict now, because I'm not out there saying, "Hi, my name is Priscilla and this is my perspective." I'm really grounded in who I am. And if you want to know why, if you want to maybe foster some connection with the curious question, then I'm going to go for it.
Sounds like fun.
And I'm going to have a better time. Now, the people that I know, and this is just me personally, on my own pursuit of internal evolution, if I know that my perspectives and my opinions are harmful to somebody else, I'm trying to learn progressively, because it's a project for me, to just not speak, to choose silence, and to not be out there with my perspective or opinion, because it actually is doing more harm than good in the way I'm expressing it. And that's a way of reading your audience, is something that I like to think about a lot. Like when we're reading our audience, your audience is your peers, your audience is your children. I think being a parent is another one that I'm really evaluating this at. Like when I'm about to be a 38-year-old woman, right? When I'm offering up my perspective or my opinion to my 4-year-old, I'm offering her 34 more years of life, when really maybe she doesn't need to know all that mess. Maybe she doesn't need my perspective right now. Maybe she just needs to have her own opinion and her own perspective. That's a whole 4 years old. And I don't need to come in there messing that up with all the things and experiences that I've had. Now, maybe when she's 38 years old and she comes to me and says, well, how did you navigate this? What did you do? And she starts to foster that connection with her curious questions. I'm going to open that book right up. And I'm going to show her it all.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It's a good place to be when you're able to share your story with somebody who wants to hear it, right? Because then your perspective has all the more value when somebody is looking to gain hope.
Yeah.
Or residual currency in the form of motivation or inspiration from your perspective, from what happened when you went to here. Like there's facts. You can share facts. You know, if you hit the gas, you're going to go faster. That's a fact. Right? If you don't pay attention on the road, there's a high possibility you could drive off the road or get into a car wreck.
Right.
You know, those are facts. But there's also opinions. When I think of the term opinions, I think of tea. I think of somebody just speaking about somebody else's life, how they should live it, why they should live it this way, or what they believe about this thing. And there's not any factual data behind it.
Right.
And if there is, they're not pulling from that data to say that thing.
Right.
That's where I feel opinions can be put into that category of negativity.
Yeah.
Versus a perspective is like, this is how I raised, this is why I believe this thing. And so because of that, I feel blase, right? That's sharing a perspective. An opinion is forcing or trying to convince. That's my
I really like
take
this.
on it.
It's kind of cool. I got a couple things in my head, of course, that popped in. So there's this saying, and I won't go the vulgar route all the way with it, but it says opinions are like a-holes, like actually, because everyone's got one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you special. It doesn't make you right. It doesn't make you any better, but it can make you look like an a-hole, depending on who your audience is. Now, perspective.
Is that kind of like assumptions, making
absolutely
A out of you and me?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
The same. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the same thing with this perspective. So when I think perspective, I think of an eagle. I think of a bird's eye view. I think of like flying above it, you know, and like not giving into the negativity of things or offering your opinions out there. But you do have this fly above the drama perspective. And something I've been learning recently is like making reparations, or even goes back to our last episode with redemption. And so when you're offering your perspective to someone, you want to make sure that it isn't causing more harm than it is good, because maybe they aren't there with you and wanting to see all the things that you see. So I think perspective could be something that's invited. I think that maybe that could be a part of the exchange. When you hear that someone is inviting your vision to their world, then that's an open door to feel safe with that share. But a perspective, again, is your view, and it might just be for you.
But I also have just come up with a thought. In the spirit of pie, what if we were all to agree to pursue an impeccable perspective?
I love it.
Meaning, and this is all coming to me in real time right now, when I think of the word...
It's called Pie Live.
Right? Pie Live. When I think of pursuing an impeccable perspective, and in light of what we've been talking about right here, right now, think about sharing your story with impeccability.
Mm-hmm.
Think about sharing your story objectively, only stating things that you know to be true when you're sharing your perspective. And then if it's feeling like it's more of an opinion, immediately taking ownership of it prior to giving that, thought.
Yes.
So you can state some things like, yeah, that car is red. However, in my opinion, I think it's going too fast. That's
Yeah.
impeccable perspective, collaborating with a positive opinion.
Absolutely. Another thing that I recently saw in real time, so practical application, I watched somebody share their perspective, which was kind of their opinion, but they kept it in a perspective only form of speaking. And what they did before they shared their perspective was they laid out some sentences that took complete ownership of the experience.
I think we call that a disclaimer.
Yes, absolutely. They gave a perspective disclaimer. And when they did that, I think it created a safety net for people who might not be ready for their perspective. It made it so that they knew that what they were hearing from this person that was a pretty strong perspective was not being pushed on them, that it had been completely owned by them 100% before they even shared it. And I loved it. While I watched the person do this, I thought, wow, like that was a really, and I was taking life notes. I was like, that was a really cool way of honestly saying something that's kind of stinky. Like it's stinky to the large masses. But the way that they took away the funk was nice. Like they made pie right in front of everybody with all the right ingredients. And they just said, here I'm going to explain my perspective only, and it's not for you to eat. I'm not serving it to you. You can take it or leave it. You might even have a completely different perspective. And I love that about you. If you want to share that with me, please do.
Right.
I'm up for learning.
Right.
However, this, in my own opinion and in my own perspective of experience, is blah, 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 blah. And it was a nice transition. I really admired the person for speaking their truth. I thought that was really cool. And I also thought that in that example of them explaining their perspective, but also doing the disclaimer, they invited a lot of people into contemplating the perspective because it wasn't astringent. So now it was a safe thing to try to feel out a little bit. And I saw light bulbs pop up all over the room.
Yeah. And like this concept that I'm developing about, having an impeccable perspective. It's about opening the floor for people to not feel offended. Like, hey, before you even think about the possibility of feeling offended, understand this is me. What I'm about to share with you belongs to me.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with anything about how you feel or what you believe. I'm not challenging it. I'm sharing information about me so that you can get to know me as a person or as a participant in this group setting. And yeah,
I love
that's
it.
that. So here goes.
Right.
And then the people in the room can say, wow, that person really believes that. It doesn't mean that they're challenging your belief if it's contrary to your belief.
Right.
It's just a moment of saying, hey, this is how I see, and maybe a little bit of this is why I see how I see.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm incapable of seeing or hearing or understanding your perspective. This is just mine, and I'm taking ownership of it.
I love it. A lot of this stuff, it reminds me of the Four Agreements, truly. It's just all about how you are taking things and ownership of, or being impeccable of your word. You're not making assumptions that other people want your perspective or anything like that. And that you are doing your best by being considerate of others while you're sharing. There's a really cool mindset behind all of this. I think we'll head into the cards next to honor that.
Yeah, I happen to grab this one. Be impeccable with your word. Create a beautiful dream.
Woo.
Your word can create the most beautiful dream, or your word can destroy everything around you. impeccability of the word only creates beauty, love, and heaven on earth.
I love it. I'll take mine. And it says, always do your best, express your own divinity or your own divine perspective. You don't need the acceptance of others. You don't need knowledge or great philosophical concepts. The universe is hilarious. You have the right to be you, and you express your own divinity by being alive and by loving yourself and others. Absolutely perfect.
We can just let these sit because it's doing its job.
It's
right?
doing its job.
Don't make assumptions. Assume nothing. Any kind of relationship, we can make the assumption that others know what we think. And we don't have to say what we want. We assume they are going to do what we want because they know us so well. If they don't do what we want, we feel hurt and think, how could you do that? You should know.
Amen.
Nah. Don't make assumptions.
Don't make assumptions.
Curiosity fosters connection. Ask questions.
So fun.
And clarify your needs on the reverse end of that.
Right.
When you're asking questions to gain knowledge, make sure you're sharing, front load your needs, your desires, your wants when you're asking a favor of a friend, a spouse, a sibling, a parent, a coworker. Let it be known exactly what you want and how you want it, and give them the floor to ask those questions so that you can avoid the assumption process altogether.
I just love these cards. Also, I love the way the universe works. As we're talking about perspective, I have some glasses available on this lady. And she says, don't take anything personally. See other people as they are. When you see other people as they are without taking it personally, you can never be hurt by what they say or do. Even if others lie to you, it is okay. They are lying to you because they are afraid you will discover that they are not perfect. Obviously, this
Sounds
concept
like
of
a little bit of all of us in all of us.
Absolutely. Next up, after our 4 agreements, we've got the answer to who said that. Bum-ba-da-bum.
Who said that?
All right. Well, this one was one of my picks, and some people might think it's a little cheesy, but for me, this has been an absolute life leader in my life and continues to be in my child's life. It is Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, through his ministry and his television show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Mr. Rogers helped mentor and educate young children about the importance of kindness, community, and friendship. Fred Rogers, or Mr. Rogers, as many know him, made a huge impact on the lives of many children. Through his ministry and his television show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he helped mentor and educate young children about the importance of the things I spoke about earlier: kindness, community, and friendship. And so I just want to offer a couple more quotes by him that are really kind of fun. What really matters is helping others win too, even if it means slowing down and changing your course now and then. We all have different gifts, so we all have different ways of saying to the world who we are.
That sound like perspective?
A little bit. When I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news. My mother would say to me, look at the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. In every neighborhood all across our country, there are good people insisting on a good start for the young and doing something about it. It always helps to have people who love beside us when we have to do difficult things in life. All of us, at some time or other, need help. Whenever we're giving or receiving help. Each one of us has something valuable to bring to the world. That's one of the things that connects us as neighbors. In our own way, each one of us is a giver and a receiver. There are 3 ways to the ultimate success. Are you guys ready? These are big gems. Get your pen and paper, okay? The first way is to be kind. The second way is to be kind. And the third way is to be kind.
Kinda sounds like pie?
Yeah, and how you maybe offer your perspectives, opinions, and impeccable words.
In a very healthy and conducive way to promote growth, community, and connection.
I just love it.
Right? Speaking of our next situation, let's get into a little bit of philanthropy.
I love it. So today we're going to highlight some local members in our community and a program that is a nonprofit locally that is a very beautiful unit of folks that work, and it is Community Youth Services. Okay. Now I'm going to just read a little bit about Community Youth Services. Community Youth Services serves the South Sound of Washington. They also have offices in Lewis, Mason, Thurston, and Pierce County. Their mission: Community Youth Services empowers youth at risk and their families to meet their goals for safety, stability, belonging, and success by providing a continuum of individualized services and advocacy. Their vision is that every child growing up in a supportive home and community and achieving their full potential for personal growth. And their why: we believe in strengthening our communities by empowering youth and families to create their own success.
Yeah. And again, in honoring our brothers that do it, Joshua Smith and Threat Brown, 2 different counties, same mission, empowering information dissemination for the youth, so that the youth, our youth, are growing and to become these beautiful trees of knowledge and life and sustainability, because it's our youth that are going to bring us forward in the next few years. It's our youth that keep perpetuating the goodness and the changes that are happening, that need to happen, and that will happen in our future to make our communities better and tighter. And by allowing the knowledge and the space and the mentorship for a youth to pursue internal evolution and grow their emotional intelligence starting early, I can only imagine what kind of future that we're going to have if we keep perpetuating this knowledge and this currency into our youth.
Yeah, some ways that you could practice philanthropy in your own life is to contact Community Youth Services and just ask them how you can help. That's a great way to start fostering those connections, which that word foster leads me into something that I would just really like to highlight. I myself have been a foster mother, and something that I learned about foster care is that you want to love babies like they are your own. But foster care is actually about reunification, and it is about making sure to foster the connections between their parents as well, and the healing of our community overall. Something that isn't always on the table is people think foster babies. You always think babies are what's available, but right now there is a larger need for foster families than ever before. There are not enough foster families out there for how many foster children are out there in need of places to feel safe while their families heal in recovery. And some of those kids are older. Some of those kids are in their teens. And if you can open up your home in any way to anybody for any amount of time, even being a temporary foster parent for the first 24, 48 hours is a really cool opportunity to love and give a chance to engage in community on a higher level that will perpetuate the growth of others over and over again. They will remember you for the rest of their lives, and you will perpetuate pie in them and yourself, I assure you.
Yeah. Facts. I don't have any more to say on that because everything she said is true and valid.
Yeah, thanks for validating my perspective.
Absolutely. I think that's a fact, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave you guys with just one of the agreements from the blueprint
Okay.
to recovery agreements is the first one.
Mm.
I agree to be better than I was yesterday, to be the best version of myself in any given moment, and to focus on what I can do, what I control, and what I invest my energy in. And right now, I invest my energy in the you, in the pie, in the this, into the business, and into my community.
Yeah.
And I strive to be better than I was yesterday every day.
Absolutely. And we are what we agree to.
We are
I
what
love
we
that.
agree to.
Absolutely.
So, what's one agreement that you can commit to right now? Write it in the comments, write it on our YouTube page, or go to our Facebook page, Pietalk Podcast on Facebook. Let us know what you're thinking. What are some agreements that will help perpetuate your own internal evolution? We would love to read them on the next episode after this one airs. So look out for that. All right.
Yeah. Thanks again for your time and for offering your currency into our lives and into your community. We appreciate you always doing your best. And thanks for being impeccable with your words.
A